Fire Facilities manufactures steel live fire training towers, customized to meet your training needs. Check us out at FDIC or learn more at firefacilities.com.
In firefighting and public safety, reliability is key. For over 20 years, the Fire Store has equipped first responders with trusted gear featuring brands like MSA Carnes for helmets and Seek for thermal imaging cameras. Stay prepared. Visit thefirestore.com today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're looking at this. Welcome to Fireground Strategies for March 2005. We're going to talk about a few things today, but the first thing I want to talk about before Frank Viscuso starts, St. Patrick was not Italian.
No?
No, he wasn't. He was actually from Wales. He was a Roman prisoner brought there by the Romans, but he was not Italian. Frank Viscuso is spreading a poor tale. I just wanted to let him know that.
He spreads a lot of poor tales. He's a storyteller. You never know what's what and what's not.
Yep.
He's a professional practical joker.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. But he's doing well, and he's going to be the post instructor of the year this year. That's pretty exciting.
That's cool.
I'm glad for him because he's definitely spreading the knowledge. He's nonstop. I don't know how he does it.
I tell you, I was telling you, I was out on the road like 17 days in a row last month.
Yeah.
And the last day I got the flu. I got sick. Thank God it was the last day.
Yeah.
But
you know what?
I don't travel with like chauffeur-driven limos and all that like Viscuso does.
Yeah, you're Ubering it just like me.
I'm Ubering it. Yeah. Frank was the driver one time of my Uber.
No.
I'm just kidding.
It wouldn't surprise me. He's trying everything. But anyway, this month, there's a few things that we'd like to talk about. We're trying to be a little more organized as a couple of podcasters because we've typically run this show like a kitchen table discussion in a firehouse. We're still going to keep a lot of that, and we're not going to script anything. But I'm going to give you a quick list of what we're going to talk about today. So first, I'd like to talk about FDIC, your new book, 4th edition. Am I correct with that?
Yeah.
4th edition of Fireground Strategies. Also, the other new books that are being released by Fire Engineering Books and Videos. There's a ton of them. We don't have enough time to list them all. But for our listeners, go to Fire Engineering Books and Videos, and you can look at all the new releases, but not forget some of the old releases. There are some classic books that everybody should be reading. I can't discuss them enough. I'm actually thinning out my library, bringing them to the firehouse I used to work in, just so, it's like I have some books that I haven't looked at in years, but then as I'm going through them, I find a book like, from McNiff or from Caulfield, that I can't let go, but I've lent them out, and it's always a chore to get them back after you lend them out.
That's why I don't lend them out anymore. Look at this. This is my Brunacini book.
Oh my God, that's a great book.
In fact, it was held together by a rubber band, and the rubber band broke.
I still have that one.
This book is highlighted, Fire Command, Alan Brunacini.
Yep. And then his next book, Be Nice. It's
Be Nice.
It's so important for what we do to be nice. We have to be nicer on social media and things like that. Also help us all grow. Everybody has something to share with us. So I also want to talk about, do we stretch dry or charged? And when do we do either? Neither one of them is always wrong, and neither one of them is always right. But there are people who believe that. There are people that believe you don't stretch in at all. You hit it from the outside, and when you knock it down, you move in. So there's a lot of thoughts out there, and we'll discuss that a little bit. And the final thing I'd like to talk about is politics in the firehouse. There are a lot of discussions going on in politics today, and they always have been. But there's some anger in it now. I see in some firehouses I stop in. We can't do that. We actually, I might as well go there now. I already started.
Yeah, you might as well. Let's get that out of the way.
We can't do that. The bell's going to ring, and we're going to have to go out, and we're going to have to protect and cover each other. We're supposed to be brothers and sisters. If we can't sit and have a civilized discussion at the kitchen table, how are we going to go out, stretch hose, raise ladders, and talk to each other on the fireground and get the most important job we do, saving lives of our citizens? How do you feel about that?
I agree with you. I think it's getting absolutely ridiculous. You just look at. I'm not a TikTok or an Instagram guy.
Me either. I don't have either one of them.
Yeah, but you look at Facebook, and there's just so much anger out there, and so much like, it's crazy because I had said, look, your political posts have changed the way that I will vote. Said no one ever.
Yep.
Just keep the nonsense to yourself. You know what? You support the president, whether you like him or not, you support him. It doesn't matter. The last president, like him or not, you support him. But there are people out there that are just angry and it's disheartening. This is America. And whether you think there's the sitting president now polarizes everybody. Is that the right word? Polarizes, meaning like divides?
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. And that may be true, but he's still the president, man, and if we can't get along, in the firehouse, and I don't even, I actually snoozed about 15 people for 30 days on Facebook because I'm just done with it. I'm just done. And they're good friends, and I'm just done with it. Look around, man. Spring is coming. It's beautiful out. Stop being so friggin' angry. You're a friggin' American, the greatest country on the face of the earth. Stop the nonsense.
Yep. And I don't care which side you're on.
No.
A quick discussion about my father. My father was a registered Democrat because he was a labor, he believed in labor. He believed in unions and all that. But as a printer, he printed the campaign posters for many Republican candidates in our community because he believed in people and their ideals and their values. He never always voted Democrat, and he never always voted Republican. And I've grown up a lot of that myself. And what values do the candidates bring to the table? I don't care what label you have. I don't care what opinion you have. I'm not going to dislike you because of what your party is. I don't care. But if you start screaming at me and yelling at me, then I won't like you. Do you know what I mean? It's okay. Share your opinion with me. Tell me why you have that opinion, and I'll listen. And I'll listen cordially. And as a matter of fact, I don't even argue. I try to avoid the whole conversations. I read a lot. I read every day. And so anyway, the bottom line is that your brothers and sisters, please treat them like brothers and sisters and get the job done. And we're here to save lives, which is going to briefly lead me into the next part of this conversation.
Yeah. Just a divide in the firehouse becomes a divide on the fireground.
Yes, it does. Even if you don't think it does. Oh, I'll be able to do it when I get there. No, it's gonna hamper what you do. So anyway, speaking of lives, today is March 7th, 1 month away from FDIC in Indianapolis. Opening day is 1 month from today. And I know there are people from FDIC and fire engineering out there right now getting the final thing set up. I'm excited. I can't wait to see everybody. I can't wait to share the knowledge, and I can't wait to tell everybody that everything you say is bullshit.
I'm not telling you what my classroom is.
You know what? I have the FDIC app. I'll find you.
No. You have to have somebody videotape it, though. Maureen did it. It was great when Maureen did it, and I still have it. But I might have to get a bunch of archives of how many times you guys have said that.
Oh my God, I don't even know. But
unfortunately, it's catching on because like you're going to say it, then like Frank Ricci might walk in, and I don't know about Viscuso, because you know why? Viscuso's afraid that we're going to come into his room. So I don't think he plays that game, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We can throw a preemptive strike. But yeah, what happens then is everybody starts to catch on, and then it's almost like Alice's Restaurant.
Yeah.
You walk in, sing a bar, Alice's Restaurant, walk out. That's what it's going to turn into.
Yep. It's great. It is. It is so much fun, and there's so many good people. There's so much knowledge out there. For those who've never been, you will never be the same.
Yeah. It is the premier show. You're in the right place. If you want, excuse me, see this flu is still beating me up a little. You want to find out what the job's all about. This is the place you go. You go out to Indianapolis.
Yeah, and you can find anything you're looking for. You can find extrication classes. You can find EMS classes. You can find paramedic classes. You can find company officer classes. You can find basic engine company operations. There is everything there. Leadership. Private dwellings. I know this guy who's doing a class on Thursday morning, right after opening ceremonies. He's doing a class on.
Bullshit.
Well, some of it is, but most of it is pretty informal, pretty fun, and I use non-fire exercises to stimulate your brain, to open your mind a little bit. So
right.
It'll be fun.
Right.
And
well, let's run it down. Your class is when?
It's right after opening ceremony, so 10:30 Thursday.
10:30 Thursday, right after opening ceremonies. Very good.
And I know you have too. Why don't you tell us when those are?
Mm-hmm. Well, we also have, I believe, our podcast of this show will be going live on Thursday at 1:00. We are hoping and anticipating that Ron Canterman will be one of our guests. We never know who our guests are going to be, quite honestly. No. Last year we had Eileen Brennan.
That was my favorite show.
Yeah, that was a great show.
That was we talked about her dad, and we had great other guests with us. It was such a fun show. We kept going on and on and on.
We had Kevin Shea. Kevin Shea was with us.
Kevin Shea was great.
Yeah.
He's always, what a gentleman, kind, soft-spoken, and funny.
Yeah, we were talking about everything from white clam sauce recipes to her dad, and it was a lot of fun.
Clamming on Sable, Long Island, clamming to going out with rakes and getting clams and cooking them up at dinner that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff.
It was good stuff.
So, yeah, I got a really full agenda out there this year.
We always do.
Yeah, it goes so fast. On Monday at 8:00, I have my strategic decision-making class, which is a pre-conference workshop. Hopefully people are signing up for it. It's going to be completely updated because it's sort of based on the new book, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Shameless plug. I don't have my copies yet, so I have it on a piece of cardboard. But people have copies already. People tell me, yeah, I'm reading it. It's a great book. I'm like, oh, that's great. I don't even have one yet.
You got to take care of the customers.
Yes. Then let's see. I got a book signing at 1:00 on the 8th. I don't got anything on the 8th. I mean, I got some things, but the 9th, I'm really excited. I'm doing it at 11:50. I'm going to be doing the Tall Buildings Seminar, Tall Buildings Conference, which is part of the FDIC. really excited for that. I'm going to be talking about short-staffed high-rise operations, because if you look at the tall building cadre, they're from some of the biggest departments in the world, and you got 4, 5, 6 guys on a rig. I'm going to be talking about the 3 guys on a rig departments. How do you possibly put together a solid high-rise response when you got 3 guys on a rig? And we're gonna talk about that. I only got like a half an hour, but from what I understand, everybody's got a half an hour, but everybody goes long. So I'm thinking I'm gonna probably go long. I have another book signing that day. We have our radio show on Thursday, Duffy's class on Thursday, and got another book signing at 10 o'clock. And then Friday, it's all over. It's you blink your eyes and that's the end of the show. But there's so much to jam in there. What was really cool last year was I got a chance to do a TED Talk in the stadium where they have that big sort of open area. And this year they're doing it, even more. There's going to be all kinds of training demonstrations down there. I believe there'll be more TED Talks. It's right on the field inside the stadium. What's the name of that stadium?
Lucas Oil.
Lucas Oil Stadium, yes. It's inside Lucas Oil Stadium. It's really, really cool. There's something for everybody down there.
Yeah.
There's robotics. There's all kinds of like really, really cool cutting edge stuff. And I know I believe the ISFSI is doing some kind of engine operations thing down
yes,
there.
They are.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different people doing a bunch of different things, and it's just something for everybody. Last year they had this like sort of like a hydrofoil, I guess. What's those things? A hovercraft. They had a hovercraft,
Yes.
and out in the parking lot, and they were flying around with this friggin' hovercraft. It was really cool, but they have all the apparatus. You have the classes that have both the classroom and the hands-on, and that's out there. You have the firefighter challenge stuff. Hopefully it's going to be warm out there. That's the biggest thing. Hopefully it's good weather.
I've been out there on some days. It was so cold when we were walking from venue to venue. But yeah, it's amazing. And they're expecting 37,000 fire service professionals. And if you're listening, you should be one of them. If you can't go this year for financial reasons, save up for next year. It's not that much over a year's savings. It changed my life going there as a student. And especially when I became an instructor, which I'm still amazed that I get to be invited back every year. It's just the group of people there. I have to say this. They cheered me on. I was the newcomer. I wasn't like a probie. They cheered me on, gave me advice, came to my classes to encourage me because, trust me, I was shitting in my pants.
You and me both.
I had no saliva for the first 15 minutes. It was an incredible experience, and I have to thank so many people, but there's not enough time here. And, it's worth your effort to go.
Yeah.
So tell me what's different. First, give me the basics of your book, and then tell me what's different about the new book.
Okay. So the 4th edition, it almost didn't get written. I wasn't going to write it, and I was out at the board. Excuse me, the board meetings in Tulsa, and I had a rare, not rare, but an opportunity heading to the airport to sit next to Chief Brunacini in the van. It was about a month before he passed away, and my leadership book had just come out, and I had it with me, and it was actually the book. It was my book. It was like all highlighted, because it was like my working copy book. And I showed it to him, and he took it, and he was holding it, and I said, I ain't ever getting that thing back. But he asked me about the strategies book, and I said, well, the last, the 3rd edition should have been called the last edition. And he was like, well, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? You're still a vital part of the job. You're still on the time I was still on the job. He said, you have a brand. You've done really well with your brand. You're known all over. You should write your 4th edition. So when I got back from the FDIC, I started from the meetings. I started taking notes, and those notes became the 4th edition of the book. And this edition probably has the most changes in it than I probably ever had, with the exception of the first and the second. I'm really proud of it. Some of it is a bit unique. Some of it is based on some of the articles I've done, but there are some things in there that I think I'm hoping they give people some pause and start thinking a little bit, because I think once you're off the job, you think a lot more about about the job in a way. And there was some things in there that I felt were things I could put in there that were, like pretty cool, So let's take a look. So on the back of the book is all the stuff on there that is kind of new. And, I always look to see and look at like expanded scene arrival protocols, because the most important thing is your first arriving company and what they do. And the even more important is the first arriving company's sort of mentality that the fireground is going to escalate. And I've done some things with that in the book, the escalating fireground. I talk a bunch more about RIT in there and mutual aid considerations. But I looked a lot into the modern fire environment, even more than I did in the last book. And I also looked at this so much more, built things out there in building construction. So I updated that. I got combustible cladding in there, mass timber and pedestal construction, OSB, engineered wood frame, even things like T-stud framing, which is pretty new, but is kind of an interesting type of construction. But I've expanded a bunch of things. I talked about the use of exterior and interior control, and like the indicators of when they should be used in some examples. That's sort of where the NFPA is going now: interior and exterior control. The transitional attack, obviously, and the transition to interior, that sort of thing. And I actually call it the exterior strategic opportunity. And I talk about cues and options for it, because just hitting it from the yard is one thing, but there are other options that you might have when you don't have good staffing, or when the fire is not really close to the front door. Just things along those natures. I have a guide to strategic transition from offensive to defensive, like when it's time to pull out. Talked a little bit about there's a section on recognizing and managing the structural carcass. Like when we've lost and we've killed guys and girls, we've killed them for a building that's nothing more than a semi-organized pile of rubble fighting against gravity. So I've addressed that in that book, because I actually saw that happen. One of the last fires I ever went to, I saw that happen, and I did an article on it, but I've expanded that. I did, and you'll be happy about this stuff, I expanded the private dwelling chapter. So, I got attic stuff in there, and knee wall dangers, dead man rooms, which Charlie Lynn will love. And I also use porch fires, elevated structural challenges, because, private dwellings are not the same as they used to be, especially, down on the Jersey Shore. You have, the private dwellings, and now a lot of them are raised because of, Hurricane Sandy and things like that. And, if the landscape of your response district changes, then you have to change with that, and a lot of departments are not, but you have to be able to recognize that. I updated the engineered multiple dwelling section. You have old law, new law, you have fire resistive multiple dwellings, but now, you have these engineered multiple dwellings, which are, some people call them pedestals, some people call them podium, whatever they are. But I have some things in there. I did a bunch of new things in the high-rise chapter. I talked about a thing called the Big Six in tactical operations in there. I got some stuff from Peter McBride, and he did an article years back about. He's from Ottawa, and he did an article years back about strategic considerations in combustible roof fires and decoupling and some other type of activities that I've never really considered that much. So I learned a lot from him, and I put that in the book. And of course, there's caveats in there. Like, listen, if the fire is directly below you, you don't belong on that roof. But if you have a big enough building that you can, almost like a trench cut, but not really. It's much easier to do, much quicker, and I learned a lot from Peter McBride with this, and I decided to put that in there. I talked about rack storage firefighting and the outside the aisle strategy, large commercial buildings, and and again, I also talked about when buildings change the rules of the game. Where we don't do well. We stink at large commercial buildings. The high risk, low frequency fires that we get, and operating as if they're low risk and high frequency, operating just the opposite. So, but I also did sections on active shooter, civil unrest, lithium ion, highway operations, and from the point of view of the incident commander, and the organization of these areas. I got a lot of help there from North Hudson Regional and the policies that they have on those things, and Jason Hovelman and a couple other people that have dealt with things, out like in I can't remember the name. It wasn't Joplin. Joplin was where the tornado was, but it was out that way, and what's that? Ferguson, yes, Ferguson. So, I spoke to Jason about that and some other people about that, and Brian Zeitz and Silvernail, and they gave me some insights on it, and I took that and I went through the North Hudson policies, and just some guidelines that could sort of maybe help departments out that just have never dealt with that, or and thank God they've never dealt with it, but there's always the possibility that they will. Civil disturbance can happen anywhere. Active shooter can happen anywhere. Lithium ion is everywhere, and the other, highway incidents. I got a lot of information there from Walter Lewis in the Orlando Fire Department. So, I used I used a lot of mutual aid for this particular book, and I think it came really well, and I'm really happy and proud, and this will be the last edition because listen, I'm out 10 years. By the time I write a novel, I'll be out 18 years. Somebody, I'm going to lay this out there, this challenge now. Somebody else pick this thing up. But there are a bunch of other new books out there. Dennis Rubin has a command book.
Yep.
There was another command book that just came out. I don't remember. I actually had a list of new books, and I don't know what I did with it.
You know what? Simplest way: fire engineering books. Go look. There is so much there. Jim Silvernail, on the non-traditional truck company.
That's it. Non-traditional truck company.
I don't even know whether that's shipping yet, but that's another. There's so many great books
and
all coming out.
Yes, he did that book.
And the thing about when you go to their page, you might have to look, because sometimes the traditional books are the first ones you see, and to find their newer books, you have to do a little scrolling. There's so many books you could spend a whole day looking at them and reading their synopses. Will this work for me? Will my department use this? Is this relevant? If Jim Duffy's not going to work in a high-rise building in his whole career. 8 stories, I think, is the tallest building I ever fought a fire in. Which is formidable, but it's not 35 stories or 45 stories or 100 stories. So for me, a book on high rises, I'll read it because I'm interested. But when I was working, that wouldn't be useful. I mean, some things obviously would translate in to low-rise buildings. But there's so much, and the bookstore has discounts at FDIC. If you're at FDIC, go through the bookstores, look what's there.
There's a ton of them. Oh my God, they're probably putting more books out now than
Yes.
they've ever done before. Yeah, Rubens is choosing to command. Lee Shapiro has a new book out there about mentoring the fire officer. Again, we talked about Jim Silvernail and Arthur Ashley. We have some new Sprinkles books out there.
Yeah.
Dina Ali, Hope Out of Darkness, some
that's
really solid thing.
I really wanted to bring that up. We're finally opening our eyes. She has done a wonderful job. What she's talking about is so important. We, as a profession, we self-destruct a lot of times. We hurt our families, we hurt our friends, we hurt ourselves. And she's done a wonderful job, collaboration from many, many people. And it's a good book to read. It's not as exciting as a strategy and tactics book or a command book. But if you're an officer, you're responsible for your people, and not just at the fireground. Their mental health, how they're treated, how you treat them, how you help them when they need help. And I think that's a book that everybody should look into, at least every department. If you don't need an individual copy, make sure there's one in your firehouse, at the chief's office or the company officer's office. I think it's so important. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, our buddy Steve Przborowski, if that's how you pronounce it, he's got a new book, Courage Under Fire. The book of Andy, Andy Fredericks, another tremendous book. Eddie Buchanan's got a training officer handbook. Dave McGlynn's got his book out. A lot of great stuff out there. Really, really great book. And I recommend this highly to everyone, is 30 Fires You Must Know.
Absolutely.
The book by Lieb and Goldfeder. And they wrote that book. And it's funny because why they wrote that book, I know exactly what they're talking about, because they would talk about fires and nobody would know what they were talking about. I was just in a class last week and I started talking about a couple of different fires, and I was like, well, who knows what happened here? And who knows what happened here? And you're getting blank stares. And then I have it in my computer bag, and I pulled it out and I said, you need to get this book. This is the book you need to get. 35. It goes to charity. It covers so much ground. I think they're writing a second one. It was just a great book on lessons learned from fires where firefighters were killed. Everything from Worcester, Mass to Hackensack to the telephone exchange fire to, I actually don't have it in front of me because my computer.
The 23rd Street fire.
23rd Street fire, right? The brush fire where the 19 guys were killed. There's just if you're a firefighter, you need to get that book. That is the book. I agree.
You know what? It's like the last 5 classes I taught, I brought up Frank Brannigan. So I brought up Frank Brannigan. 5 classes, and good-sized classes, too. Nobody knew who Frank Brannigan was. There was one person studying to be a fire marshal that knew who Frank Brannigan was. I'm going to say, I know it's an old book. There's a second edition out. As the incident commander, the guy with the white helmet and the radio, it's one of the most important books I read. But I have to be honest, it was a hard book for me to read. It was very detail oriented. But when it was all said and done, a couple years later, I read it a second time and I understood it better because I've seen the consequences or the good things that happened from stuff I read in that book. So the fire engineering just has so much to offer on the upcoming firefighter. If you ever want to move up, or if you just want to be the best firefighter you can be, you don't have to be a company officer. You don't have to be a chief. Just know your job, keep yourself safe, and keep your team safe. And reading these books will help you do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
You have to have a library.
absolutely.
You know? There's
And
education, there's lessons learned, there's pre-fire street intelligence, there's all ways that you become successful at this business. And nobody has enough fires or has enough incidents that they are they can rely on that alone.
yeah, no. Do you know what the
You know?
problem with learning just from experience is? There's a lot of them, but I'll give you my definition. The problem with it is you get the test before the lesson.
Mm, mm,
And
yep.
and you will learn from failing that test or being successful on the test, but sometimes successful because you were lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
keep repeating that same thing over and over till you don't get lucky. Books
Yeah.
are great. Sometimes I go back and read books after an incident. I said, you know something, I remember reading something about it, and it didn't come to me when I needed it. And I would go back, and who said that? You know, and I would go back and reread sections of the book or the whole book sometimes.
Right.
I really think fire engineering is doing a great job.
They
And,
are. They are.
and
They're really moving the business forward, you know. Vincent Dunn said something along the lines of, it's better to be lucky than smart, but if you're smart, you have a better chance of being lucky.
yeah,
Uncle Vinny.
absolutely. And he's still spreading the knowledge.
Yes. He
He's
writes like
amazing.
500 words a day.
I know, that's
I believe he
crazy.
writes like 500 words a day, man. Yeah, he's amazing. He is amazing. And he's in his 80s.
And he's so friendly and polite and
Yeah.
exciting to talk to. You know, he's very deliberate and measured. I guess that's the way to say it when he talks.
That's a good way of putting it. He's measured. I like
Yep.
that.
You know, it all
Yeah.
connects.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
he actually validated my class several years ago in the Battle Space book series. He said he was asked about the toughest fires he's ever fought. He said, in my opinion, a 2.5-story wood frame building is the most complicated building you'll ever fight a fire in.
Mm. Yeah.
You
There's
know,
so many variables.
but we all think it's okay. They're routine. They're easy. Anyway, get
Mm-hmm.
away from my stuff. And, you know, I want to talk about this year. Today is March 7th. We have lost 516 civilians in residential fires this year.
Wow.
But that's right on line with the average of about 2,400 every year. Last year, we were 522
Mm.
on the same date. So we average, unfortunately, we lose 25 people. We can learn from that and we can do better from that. But what we have to start doing, and I know Brian Brush is doing it with the Firefighter Rescue Survey, let's talk about the people we saved. How many people did we save? How did we save them? Let's not just talk about the losses. You know, when we go to the town or city councils, we say, oh, we lost $2 million in real estate at that fire. Well, let's talk about the real estate we saved. If you're looking to increase your budget or be loved by your city managers, tell them what you saved. Not, oh yeah, we lost $10 million in that building today. We need to do both. But I think we need also,
we need to put the opposite spin on it.
right. What are our successes? You know, and I think that's important. But I think it's time to move on. I had a discussion with a friend last week about stretching dry or stretching charged. And I firmly believe there's a place for both of them. And I believe in most private dwelling fires, you should always charge it at the door, the exterior door in a private dwelling fire. A lot of people who do private dwellings, they use pre-connects. So if you have 100 feet of hose or 50 feet on your hose and you're going up the staircase and it comes rolling out of the room while you got those flat load on your shoulder, what do you got to do? Well, first you got to get rid of the pile of hose on your shoulder. And the fire is continuing to roll down over your head. And then you got to call a pump operator if he's not hooking up to the hydrant when you call him to charge the line. And then when it charges, I'm going to do something physical here. It's going to go boom in the stairway. And you're going to have kinks and folds, and the hose is going to get caught in the stair railings and, the banisters or the spindles. And now you got to work on it. But the fire is still rolling over your head. If you had a charged hose line, how many flights in a typical private dwelling fire?
2.
No, not outside, inside, to the second floor.
Oh, 1. Right?
There's the stairs going up. There are 13 steps in almost every house in this country.
Right.
To the second floor. If you can't stretch a charged 1 3/4 hose line up to the third floor, maybe you should be doing something else for a living. Or as a volunteer. When I say living, we're all on a job. But if that person was going up the staircase with a charged hose line, fire rolled out of the room that it was burning in over your heads, you drop to your knees, you go like this, you rake the ceiling, and you move up and into the room that's venting fire. Now, that being said, you're in a big the new houses where it's 4,000 square foot house and you got to get to the backside to get maybe stretching through the first floor and charging it before you go up the stairs back there, or a multiple dwelling. And I know what you do on a multiple dwelling.
Yeah. I would still stretch wet into a McMansion. Yeah, but a multiple dwelling is another story. Yeah.
No, and I agree. But there are some times where it may be okay, but you better have a good reason.
Yeah.
For stretching dry. You better be able to justify it, because if something unexpected happens in those unenclosed spaces, getting water quickly is not going to happen.
No.
But in a multiple dwelling, tell us a typical operation in Union City. I'll say 25-story building, fire on the 4th floor.
A 25-story building.
Okay, I'm exaggerating. So let's.
Okay, I was thinking about a 5-story, like an apartment building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fire's on the 4th floor, and you have a protected stairway, typically.
Yeah. No, we don't. They're open.
All of them.
They're open stairwells.
Oh, okay.
In the older buildings, they maybe would. In the newer buildings, they'll probably be, steel and stone or steel and concrete stairs, But if the fire's on the 4th floor, we're gonna take somebody will be up there first and say, okay, we got a 4th floor fire. We may stretch dry to the 2nd or the 3rd floor before we charge that line. It just depends. We've had some problems with that over the years. But like I said, we use 2 engines to stretch the first line. So there's 4 people involved. And if it's above the 3rd floor, we may use a 3rd engine, which would bring 6 or 7 people into stretching that first line. But one of the things that they were doing was they have a thing called the Nozzleman shoulder load. And it's the last length of hose, and it's only 6 feet long, right? So we stretch off the back. We don't stretch pre-connects. So we stretch off the back, and the last length is only 6 feet long. So this nozzleman just takes that 6 feet. It doesn't drag on the ground. It doesn't get caught on anything. And then as he goes forward, everybody bus wheels the line off the rig, and then guys strategically get to where they have to go, a guy at the door, a guy in the stairwell, they bus wheel the line. That way, when this guy gets up to the 3rd floor, now he's got 50 feet and whatever else he needs, obviously. But now he's got at least 50 feet to sort of lay on the stairs and get that all sort of stretched out. And then they would charge it and advance it up to the 4th floor. It depends. Some buildings have very, very narrow sort of stair landings. where you just have, 2 doors or 4 doors, and it's an old law building. You got the stair landings. Some buildings have a much bigger stair landing where we can, get a little better of a flake, in those landings, but those are the only buildings I think that we will stretch dry into, go ahead.
I need to ask you a question while you're going there with how multiple engines stretch a line. And I think that's perfect. Most places that needs to happen, even at FDNY, they marry companies to get a line in operation. But you don't have a control man. So who decides where? Was it the pump operator decides to where to break the line on the flat load on the back of your truck? Who makes that decision?
I think, and
if
I'm
you're stretching
thinking
charged.
I'm thinking back. So we would have, if 2 engines are, no, we wouldn't be stretching charged if he's got to break the line.
Right.
Right. So I'm thinking that you have the nozzleman with the company officer going in first, heading up the stairs, and then you have another firefighter with another company officer. That second company officer generally is, from what I remember, he generally would be near the door. As that line's going in, he's bus wheeling, he's talking, and now he'll say, okay, break it. He'll tell the pump operator. But the pump operator's job, he operates from the engine to the doorway.
Right.
So making sure there's no hose underneath car tires, that's everybody's job, but he doesn't stay married to that pump panel. We use a 2-engine, a feed and an attack, supply and attack. So that guy who's on the attack engine, he would be, he would actually be helping pull the line off the back of the rig. And, making sure it's not going under the tires or it's not, going around garbage cans or trees. Well, we don't have too many trees, telephone poles.
A tree grows in Union City.
Not going around telephone poles or traffic lights. And, and then when they get to where they go, they'll relay it down, break it. We're there, we're good. And the company officer will break it, and then he'll break the line. A lot of times he'll pull off that extra length if he has to, but we use, with a solid bore nozzle, I believe they'll have, I think 6 lengths. I don't think it's 8. I think it's 6, but the other line is 4 lengths to not a reducer, increaser to 2.5. So, as they're going up 3rd, 4th floors, that line that's going in the building is actually 2.5. Being reduced down to the 1 3/4, and I believe it's 150 feet, 1 3/4. It might be 200 feet. I'm not remembering quite honestly. Might be 200 feet, and I believe they use solid bore nozzles now.
So, your pump operator on the second due apparatus, and I know you have a unique way of using him or her. What's their job when it comes to standpipe operations?
The pump operator on the second apparatus?
Yes.
The second engine, he's still helping the first engine. The third engine hits the FDC.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
yeah, third engine hits the FDC.
My understanding of how you do it, and correct me if I'm wrong, because we talk about all kinds of stuff and we go all over. So, in our job, somebody's assigned to hook up to the standpipe, the floor below the fire, or 2 floors below the fire. I
was talking about the FDC outside.
No, I'm talking about the inside.
Okay. Continue, and then I'll tell you what we do.
Okay. So from what I understand from the way you explain it to me, the second due or third due pump operator actually ends up hooking up and controlling the water and opening the water to the firefighters above the floor.
Yeah. Second due. The first arriving engine company chauffeur has the elevator control if it's a high rise. The second arriving engine company chauffeur is standpipe control. So he's on the floor below. He's making sure there's water. He's making sure it's flaked out up to the fire floor. He's making sure there's no obstructions in there, no PRVs or anything like that. Yeah, he's like the pump operator on the floor below the fire.
That's a great idea. I think that the first place I ever heard that was from you. And I think that's a brilliant
problem.
Yeah, you got 3-man engine company. You have a
Yeah.
3-man engine company, and one of them is the chauffeur. So now you really have, just like my department, 2 men stretching the line. But I'm not fighting as many mid-rises as you were in, I'll say Union City, for example, but the whole North Hudson is like that.
So for a high-rise fire, we have 6 guys in the elevator. Well, 6 guys on the fire attack, you know. But one of them stays back as the elevator operator, so that brings it down to 5. And then one is the standpipe control. That brings it down to 4 guys stretching the line to the fire.
Yep.
So it's a good way to do it. I think it's a good way to do it. I think it's worked for us when we've followed the SOP. And I'm going to talk about one of the fires. I'm going to talk about the tall building conferences when we did not follow the SOP, and it created some major problems for us. You know, and we didn't. And what happened then was our high-rise SOP went from 9 pages to 30 pages because we had to be more specific. We had to fix what was wrong. You know.
Wow. So. One other place I want to talk about stretching charged is a commercial fire, like a taxpayer, residential over commercial. You know, your stationery store, your package store, your liquor store, maybe even a diner or a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So these buildings are usually 80 feet deep, maybe 50 feet wide, maybe 40 feet wide. And you got smoke pushing out. And I've seen when I was buffing, and I'm not going to say what city I was in, but they're stretching a 2.5 dry into a structure like that, and they don't know where the fire is.
And smoke.
And there's smoke.
Yeah. Never just dry in smoke.
Yeah, I don't Again, I'm not being critical. I am being a little critical, but
you can be critical. Never stretch dry into smoke ever.
Yeah, and it just. Well, they say it's a small fire in the back. Well, what are the contents? Is it a stationery store filled with boxes and paper? Yeah. Is it a hardware store filled with paint and oil cans? What's going on? You know,
and then you open the door. Then you open the door and you feed oxygen to it, and it's going to come to the door.
Yep.
Unless there's a wind condition.
I agree. Even if there isn't a wind condition, it's. So, you know what? So you have to drain the hose and repack it, and you didn't need it all. I'm okay with that. I got no issue with that.
Yeah.
You know. Now, I have one more question. Do you use the first engine company to pump to the companies or hook up to the FDIC connection on the outside, or the second do? Does the line come off the first engine or the second engine?
In a high rise or
no? Well, in a mid raise where you work. So,
it depends. If the first engine bumps the second engine, that'll be coming off the second engine. The engine in front of the building, the engine just past the building,
right?
That's where the line's coming from.
So, I'm going to ask you one more thing, because where you work is the only place I've ever heard that bump term. Why don't you describe that to our listeners? What bumping the first engine is? Okay,
so. Where we work, there's a lot of narrow streets, and our response times are very, very quick, and the rig's coming from a lot of different places all at once. So if the first engine gets into the block, they're in the investigation mode. They haven't pulled any hose, and the second engine gets there before the first ladder. The second engine can take a look down the block and see if they've stretched. Sometimes you hear them say, hey, engine 3 from engine 5, have you stretched? No, we haven't stretched. Okay, we're going to bump you. So now engine 5 had come down the block, and they bump engine 3 to the water supply. Engine 5 now goes just past the building. Engine 3 now moves up in front of them, and if engine 5 begins to stretch, engine 3 then will drop the LDH and go to the hydrant.
Okay, so it's kind of like a reverse sleigh.
It's like a modified reverse sleigh.
Right. Okay, so that explains it to people who are listening, because they would call, hey, we're going to reverse, or we're going to,
Yeah. So we do like a modified reverse lay. We do an attack and supply, And sometimes on a wider street, the supply engine will just come past the attack engine, drop the line, put it behind the tire, and off they go. Other times, if the ladder is in the block, they'll have to go around the block and either back down or hand jack, depending how long it is. They may have to back down to that attack engine, drop the LDH, and then go out to the hydrant, which takes longer.
Sure does.
Yeah. Well, we have 500-gallon tanks.
Yep.
And then once they hook up, you got 1,000 gallons in 2 tanks. But
yeah. And how far apart are your hydrants?
300 feet.
Yeah. So it's never a big stretch to the hydrant.
Not necessarily. 2 lengths of LDH, 3 lengths of LDH.
Right. So that 500's plenty. Where I worked, we had 750-gallon tanks, which when I first started working, I was like, holy shit. Where I came from, they had 300-gallon tanks because there was a hydrant every 500 feet throughout the whole entire city. So when I went there, but there are areas in town that actually have no hydrants. They used to be farms, and then they built houses or they built wineries or something like that out in the far corners of town. So that 750 gallons is a good start while you're setting up your water supply.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Some places have 1,000-gallon engines, and the problem we got with 1,000-gallon engines, I guess, is you got much higher hose beds. You got high hose beds?
They're too high. I'm going to tell you, they're too high.
Ours are low profile.
Yeah, and we
got lots of
and then we took the tailboards off. And you got to step up there. Well, not completely. They're like, less than 12. NFPA said, you can't have tailboards because people ride on it. How about having a training set? You do not ride on a tailboard. End of story. It's not.
Yeah, nobody rides a tailboard anymore anyway.
Yeah, but so in specifications, they were ordering with these tiny. So now you got a guy balancing on his toes to pull a line off the top of the hose bed, and they're falling 5 feet or hurting their shoulder trying to pull it off. So I believe, and I think they're changing that you can have longer tailboards.
Yeah, they should. They should. It's you're creating a bigger one problem while trying to solve another.
Right, and we do that pretty often in our business.
Yes, we do. We overcomplicate things. We really do. But that's what makes it fun.
It does. And you know what? And it gives us something to talk about. We get on here and we babble for a little over an hour every month, and we can always find something to discuss. But I think the last few times we were doing leadership and dispatch stuff, and I think it was good to get back to a little bit of strategy and tactics. Yeah, back to the basics. What I think most of our listeners are listening to. I mean, there's some people looking for leadership tips, but I think we're going to continue to keep it well-rounded, keep giving the information to the people. People can always email us or call us or text us and say, hey, how about you talk about this?
Well, the other thing is text us if you want to be on the show.
Yes, absolutely.
We got no problem putting anybody on this show. Listen, we may censor you.
Maybe some people.
If you stink, we're going to cut you off. Well, yeah, there's some people that we can't get a word in edgewise. And we've had them on here.
I'm not going there. I'm looking forward to FDIC because our next show will be from FDIC.
On April 10th, I believe.
Yeah.
April 10th. And you know what's significant about April 10th?
A lot of things. You tell me.
Paul McCartney left the Beatles on April 10th.
I did not know that.
Yes, he did, 1970. And so I was just looking at this, right? So you got this. I was
going to ask you about that.
You got this. Right? So there's Abbey Road. Although this is something I got from a class. And it says on it, from nobody to somebody, but not above the Beatles.
There
And
you go.
there's the book cover.
Now, let me ask you a question. How receptive? I think it's a great idea, and I think most of the people who've seen it think it's a great idea. How receptive was the fire engineering staff to that cover?
They loved it.
Good. I'm glad to
They
hear that.
they loved it. There's another little story that I don't want to say on the air.
No, you don't. Please.
No. But you might know it. I don't know. But they loved it. They said it was one of the coolest covers they've ever done. And you know how many people told me, how come the guy don't have bare feet?
Yeah.
You know, because Paul McCartney had bare feet, but the guy has the boots on, but he is out of step. Every one of the Beatles had their left foot forward, except McCartney had his right foot forward, and he was barefoot. So on the cover, the third guy is out of step with the other three.
I did not notice that.
Yes, and behind it, the photo was taken in Weehawken, and behind it, the buildings back there, that's Hudson Yards. That's New York City across the Hudson River. That's how close we are. There's Brody. But you used to be able to see the Empire State Building from that block. And now Hudson Yards is in front, you know. So it was such a good picture, just the Empire State Building. But, you know, it didn't work out that way. And we tried to do it on another block, but the angles weren't right. So, you know, we just said, you know what? Let's just do this block.
Any issues with traffic when you were shooting it?
No, it's dead end.
Oh, okay.
That's a
But
dead
you
end.
know
Dead
what?
ends at the cliffs.
Now that you mentioned New York City across, Weehawken has one of my favorite 9/11 memorials.
Yeah.
In Weehawken.
Yeah.
I
It's a
think
great
that
memorial.
that is beautiful, and I think they did a great job. And the view behind it is wonderful as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's if you ever get a chance to see it, it's on the waterfront, right near the right between the Lincoln Tunnel and the ferry. And only 13 tridents, which were the structures that held up the bottom of the building, only 13 of them survived the collapses. And there are 2 of them on the Weehawken side now. They're about 35 feet high. They're in an infinity pool. And it's a really, really, I don't know, he's probably the mailman's probably here.
Did you get him out for his walk this morning?
No. Okay, Brody, we see him. I don't know.
So on that note, why don't we sign off and you can take him for a walk, get some exercise, because that's what I'm going to do as soon as I'm finished here. A quick bite to eat, and then
I'll take him to the dog park.
Yeah, I'm going to do about a 5-mile walk in the woods, but I don't know with this wind. Maybe I shouldn't be walking in the woods.
Oh, it's windy there too. It's really windy here.
Crazy. A lot of people lost power last night. I'm fine, as you can tell, because I'm talking to you. But anyway, I think we had a great show. I enjoyed it. Get the fire engineering books online. Take a look what you need or will help you do your job better. And if you have an opportunity, get out to FDIC. And not just FDIC, there are so many local conferences that you can learn so much. You may be able to give a conference yourself for a small one. You know, I have a friend that's working on a class on the first 5 minutes or the first 10 minutes in small departments. And I think it's going to be a great class. He's a smart guy, does a lot of hands-on, but he wants to move on to do some classes. And I think he's going to do a great job. He's a great person, really passionate, loves what he does. So, you know, but there's many more people out there behind the scenes that are teaching in their firehouses or in other volunteer companies or career companies near them. Get out there, share your knowledge. None of us is as smart as all of us. I can learn from everybody, and you can too. So get out there and see the world, see how other fire departments do it, and please stay safe, and please stay brothers and sisters in the firehouses. Don't let things get between you that aren't worth it. None of it is worth it.
Right.
Thank you.
Just want to give a quick shout out. Battalion Chief Bobby Agostini. He was a North Hudson Battalion Chief. He died of 9/11 cancer, throat cancer, and today was his birthday. And I just want to shout out. He was a great, great guy. One of the funniest guys ever in the firehouse, ever. in my career and any time. And you miss Bobby. We all shine out. Love you, brother.
God bless you, sir. Continue to rest easy. Mr. Avillo, till next month. We'll see you.
All right, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too. Stay safe.
Love you too out there. Stay safe.
Fire Facilities manufactures steel live fire training towers, customized to meet your training needs. Check us out at FDIC or learn more at firefacilities.com.
In firefighting and public safety, reliability is key. For over 20 years, the Fire Store has equipped first responders with trusted gear featuring brands like MSA Carnes for helmets and Seek for thermal imaging cameras. Stay prepared. Visit thefirestore.com.